Welcome to Outside View Scandals. Today we're exploring one of the most explosive power struggles of the Middle Ages, the Investiture Controversy. It's a tale of ambition, authority, and a battle of wills between two of the most powerful figures of the 11th century, Pope Gregory VII and Holy Roman Emperor Henry IV. And the stakes? Control over the appointment of bishops, the very heart of religious and political power in medieval Europe. And if you thought modern politics was messy, wait until you hear about excommunications, barefoot penances in the snow, and a tug of war over who truly ruled Christendom. To understand the investiture controversy, we need to set the stage. The 11th century was a time of profound change and tension in Europe. The Catholic Church wielded immense influence, not just spiritually, but politically. Bishops and abbots weren't just religious leaders. They controlled vast amounts of land, wealth, and, importantly, the loyalty of the people in their territories. For kings and emperors, appointing these leaders, known as investiture, was a way to ensure political stability and maintain control over their realms. It was, quite literally, the intersection of church and state. Enter Henry IV, the Holy Roman Emperor. Henry was crowned at a young age and ruled over a vast and fragmented empire that stretched across what is now Germany and Italy. He inherited a system where emperors had long appointed bishops and abbots, a practice known as lay investiture. For Henry, this wasn't just a matter of tradition, it was essential to keeping his empire united. After all, what better way to ensure loyalty than to handpick the people who ran the local churches and their associated lands? On the other side of the stage was Pope Gregory VII, a reform-minded pontiff who had a very different vision for the church. Gregory, born Hildebrand of Savannah, was one of the most influential figures of the 11th century and a driving force behind the Gregorian reforms. These reforms aimed to strengthen the spiritual authority of the Church and eliminate corruption. A key part of this vision was ending lay investiture, which Gregory saw as a corrupting influence that allowed secular rulers to dominate the Church. The conflict erupted in 1075 when Gregory issued the Dictatus Papae, a document asserting the Pope's supremacy over all Christian rulers. It included the bold claim that only the Pope had the authority to appoint or depose bishops and, for that matter, emperors. And this was a direct challenge to Henry IV's authority. Naturally, Henry didn't take kindly to being told what he could and couldn't do in his own empire. And the showdown came when a disputed bishopric in Milan brought the issue of investiture to a head. Henry appointed his own candidate for the position, ignoring Gregory's claim to sole authority. Gregory responded by excommunicating the bishops who had supported Henry's candidate and, in 1076, excommunicated Henry himself. Excommunication wasn't just a spiritual penalty, it was a political disaster. It meant that Henry's subjects were no longer bound by their oaths of loyalty to him. And Henry's response was, shall we say, less than humble. At a synod in Worms, he declared Gregory deposed, calling him a false monk who had overstepped his bounds. And Gregory, unsurprisingly, didn't back down. He reaffirmed Henry's excommunication and declared him deposed as emperor unless he repented. So the stage was set for a dramatic confrontation. Faced with rebellion among his nobles, who saw an opportunity to weaken imperial power, Henry had no choice but to seek reconciliation. In 1077 he made the now famous journey to Canossa, a castle in northern Italy, where Gregory was staying. There, Henry stood barefoot in the snow for 3 days, begging for forgiveness. This act of penance became one of the most iconic moments of the Middle Ages, a humbling of secular power before spiritual authority. And let's be honest, nothing says I'm sorry quite like frostbite. Gregory lifted the excommunication, but the conflict was far from over. The reconciliation at Canossa was more a truce than a resolution, and tensions quickly flared again. Henry regained power, crushed his rebellious nobles, and in 1080 was excommunicated by Gregory for a second time. And this time, Henry took matters into his own hands. He marched on Rome, deposed Gregory, and installed an anti-pope, Clement III, who crowned Henry as emperor. Gregory, meanwhile, fled Rome and died in exile in 1085, a bitter end for a pope who had fought so fiercely for the independence of the Church. But even in death, Gregory's legacy endured. The Investiture Controversy didn't end with him. It continued to shape the relationship between Church and state for decades. The Concordat of Worms, signed in 1122, finally brought a formal end to the conflict. The agreement established a compromise. The Church would have the sole authority to appoint bishops, but secular rulers retained a say in the process. It was a delicate balance reflecting the intertwined nature of religious and political power in medieval Europe. So, what can we learn from the Investiture Controversy? For one, it's a reminder of how deeply intertwined religion and politics have been throughout history. The struggle between Henry and Gregory wasn't just about theology. It was about power, control, and the right to define the boundaries of authority. It also shows how personal rivalries can escalate into epoch-defining conflicts. After all, much of the controversy boiled down to two strong-willed leaders who refused to back down. The Investiture Controversy also laid the groundwork for future church-state relations. It reinforced the idea that the Church was an independent institution, not just an arm of secular authority. At the same time, it highlighted the limits of papal power and the challenges of enforcing spiritual authority in a politically fragmented world. In the end, the Investiture Controversy was more than just a medieval power struggle. It was a pivotal moment in the history of Western civilization, shaping the balance of power between church and state for centuries to come. So once again, thank you for joining me today on Outside View Scandals. And if you enjoyed this exploration of the Investiture Controversy, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, share your thoughts in the comments below the video. I'm quite curious. This is Outside View Scandals, and I look forward to seeing you next time as we uncover another fascinating chapter in the history of power, ambition, and conflict. And the next video is right here in the end screen.